Call meeting to order. Shelley, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rio.
Present.
District 2, Councilman Pastor is excused. District 3, Councilman Leeson.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Shelley. Can you lead us in the invocation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for this evening and this opportunity to serve. Heavenly Father, we ask that you give safe traveling mercies for all of our guests. We continue to pray for healing for people who are sick. Heavenly Father, we ask that you please bless council as they give their time and thoughtfulness to issues for this community. And please bless staff as they continue to serve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Some of your current events, council members, Mariano, we'll start with you.
Just a reminder, with the monsoon season, please be very, very careful and aware of flooding in whatever area you're at. Pay attention and just be safe out there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Fernando?
I don't have anything to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Freddie?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing.
Jesse?
I don't have anything. Mike? Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few things. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that was involved in First Friday again. It was an outstanding event. I can only stay for a little bit, so I missed the buggy ride. Were you able to attend that? Or?
Yeah.
No.
Great.
So the part I did go to, it was very, very cool. A lot of people out there. Did get a little bit of rain, but that didn't seem to stop anybody. So it was a great event. So thank you again for everybody that was involved in that. And then the next thing I have, I just would like to do a moment of silence for Frank Mancaro. He was a longtime Life 60 Globe, funny guy. He passed away over the weekend, so I'd like to do a moment of silence for him. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. I have two things. Just a reminder, COVID cases continue to rise across Arizona in our community also. Gila County reported around 500 new cases over the past 4 weeks. There is a vaccine hotline that you can call. They're having an event on the 22nd. You have to have an appointment, but they will give you if you're first-time vaccine or you're getting your boosters. So the number to call is 928-910-4009 and choose option 1. And if you get a recording, they call you back right away and they schedule you for that day. But it is a week from this Friday for that vaccine clinic. Last council meeting, we approved our tentative budget. And we thanked all our staff and everybody involved with the process. But in the process, we forgot to thank mainly Jeannie Seagrove, our former financial director. She was hired with the city in 2016. She has done an amazing job for the last 6 years, keeping our budget balanced, keeping our staff and council in line with financing and budgeting. So she's going to be truly missed. We had an unexpected medical retirement that she had to take in the past couple of months. We all wish her well in her recovery and a great future in her retirement. So we just want to thank Jeannie Seagrove, our former finance director, for all the work she has done. And that's all I have. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I think we'll be coming back with the final adoption of the budget. But everybody's eyes are on the pool and the Swan. I will say that they're truly doing everything they can, given all the elements going on, to get that completed and opened and finished. There was a question, when will it open? I can't say, but the other question is, when will it close? And there is a heater, and we will keep it open as long as people keep showing up. And so we'll just, and I know there's some pretty hardy people in Globe, especially some of the younger ones. And so we'll just keep it going. And the other thing is, the splash pad is separate, doesn't require a ticket or entry. It's part of the park, and so you could see people splashing around in December. But no, it's like I say, really is, everyone's pulling together, trying to get that together. It's going to be a beautiful facility when it's completed, and we thank our partners also who are here tonight. Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's all I have.
Thank you, Paul. We have our first community call to the public. I have no call cards. Do we have anybody online or an email?
Look real quick.
Okay, thank you.
Email and email.
Okay, so we'll move on to special presentations and ceremonial matters. First, we have presentation by Pinto Valley Mining Corporation, a subsidiary of Capstone Mining Corporation, to the Globe City Council and residents of the Clover Valley community, a donation of $100,000 to the Globe Community Center Pool Renovation Project. And we have Timothy Ralston and Mike Wickersham and Linda, you want to head it?
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman. And we also have Scott Harold as part of Capstone, and we would love to invite all three up for the presentation to Globe City Council for their support towards the Globe Community Center pool and splash pad. We are so excited to accept this and welcome you as a community partner. We're very, very thankful. And without you, this would absolutely not be possible. So thank you. Please feel free to stay with us.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank
Come
you.
on up, guys. Well, thank you for the opportunity to contribute, and we just couldn't be more delighted on behalf of Capstone, on behalf of all 600 of us at Pinto Valley Mine. We're awfully excited to participate in this, and this isn't one of these little, fake checks that you put out on a gong show or whatever. This is the real deal, so whoever it goes to actually has to take it in hand tonight. But we're just delighted to participate in this. And Linda, thank you for your guidance and your help in getting us here. All right. Mayor, does this come to you?
I'd hand it to the mayor.
You hand it to the mayor.
Yeah,
You can hand it to me.
there you go.
Very good at receipt.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, come on down. And we got the handoff, and we got the mascot. I think, Mayor, if you want to come down, the rest of the council stand up behind your chairs, and I think that'd be a good. Linda, does that work? Okay. And no one has to actually put on this one.
Really appreciate it.
Let's get that. And everybody maybe scoot to the side a little bit so we can center.
Oh, yes.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, all of our people who are benefiting us and contributing will be included on a plaque that will be part of the building.
Thank you again. Without all the partners and stakeholders, this project would not be possible. It's going to be an amazing pool and recreation center once it's done. Thank you very much. Next, we have presentation of a city COVID response update. Paul?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just a quick note. You already touched on it, and we had just with everything going on, the COVID team. We brought the COVID team out of hiatus and met, I think, a week Monday, just to touch bases. I think that the biggest message is the pandemic, the COVID-19, in whatever variant is out there, is still with us. you know, thankfully, it's not as devastating as it has been. A little bit more, you know, easy to spread, but still, it's a dangerous condition, and it's taking loved ones from us. So we sent out an email internally to remind our staff. I think the number one thing is if you feel sick, call ahead of time. Don't come in. If you think you have allergies but you just don't feel well, we urge everyone to check in with either their direct supervisor or Pam. We have home kits that are available here. You can pick up a home kit and go to the county. It's just peace of mind to go and check and make sure. We still have our policy, which is first day is on us. And so if you call up and say, hey, I don't feel that good, you know, or I got something, but I think it's nothing, we'll say, you know, go get tested, and we will cover that first day of your sick leave. And for those vaccinated, we still have COVID sick leave for those who've gotten vaccinated. And we're still following guidelines of the CDC and the county, and making sure people stay, you know, separated if they're been exposed. So just a reminder to everyone to be vigilant that it's out there, and don't think that, you know, if you got the sniffles, you got cold-like symptoms, that it could be nothing. Just, it's so easy now, just get a test. Other than that, Mayor, I think that's I think it's something we have to learn to live with.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
You just got to be careful out there. Yeah.
And travel seems to be where people, you get different exposures, and I think travel seems to be an area that you have to be very careful with.
Yeah, and they're working on another vaccine or another booster, I guess, the dominant variants of the BA.5 right now, which sometimes do not cover that. So,
right, and there's lots of information. I think we can't think it's over. Everybody, it's better, but it's not over.
okay, item C, presentation of the Arizona Department of Transportation and Rural Transportation Advocacy Council Transportation RTAC funding updates. Jerry. Rich.
This is our new dynamic duo here. They're, you know, they speak ADOT.
Yeah. Let's see. Danny, do you have the presentation?
Daniel, fine. Jerry, go ahead. A little background. I mean, this things.
So, okay,
things are
so what we're going to talk about tonight is the transportation projects that we have on the table right now. Where we're at, the status of those projects, and where we're at as far as funding those projects. So, let's see. Am I doing something wrong here?
And that was,
Oh, okay. So the projects that we have in the process right now is the Connie's Bridge, which is the Upper Pennell Creek Bridge. It's been designed. We'll go through each one of these later on, but Hill Street Corridor, that's the Hill Street from where we left off at Hill Street on through to the Connie's Bridge, and then also Broad Street where we left off at Cottonwood onto the bridge as well. Jess Hayes Cottonwood Bridge rather is the bridge that we were awarded in the off-system bridge program for $1 million, which is we'll get into that as well. But then Jess Hayes Sidewalks is the sidewalks that would actually a partnership with the county, Gila County, that would tie the sidewalks from where they left off just beyond the college all the way through to the bridge. And there's is it 4 phases? phases. And then also the Broad Street Sidewalk Project. This is an area that we've, in the downtown area, we're looking at to upgrading the sidewalks and making them ADA compliant as what we can make them. All right, so this is Connie's Bridge. This project was bid in March of 2022. We only had one bidder. It came in 3 times what the estimate was. It wasn't a responsible bid, so we rejected it just because of the price. We also contacted the bridge contractors in the area to find out why they weren't bidding this. If there was a reason, we wanted to know before we went back out. And we kind of went over that in one of the infrastructure meetings, I believe, and the reason for that. And then we decided that there was escalated costs in that. There's some things we can do better to get that project off the ground, but there are some escalated costs, so we added money in the CIP to cover those price escalations. And then we plan to rebid in September of this year. So funding for this, the 2.81 million was state appropriations. The pre-bid costs, including design and what we paid the railroad up to this point, is $723,000. So we've already got $700,000 into this project, and we haven't even started building it yet. So that's a sad part about construction. The estimated future cost of railroad signalization is going to be about $350,000. The bridge demolition is about $150,000. So the difference is going to be about $1.5 million. And that's what we have left. So I'm just going to go through this and we're going to go back to funding on some of them. All right, the Hill Street corridor design is 100% complete. It is shovel ready. We were given 1.1694 from state appropriations. We do have some local match that we put up to take it up to 1.5 million. So far, we have not taken a draw out of that. This is a project that was meant to couple with the Connie's Bridge, because part of this money is part of those escalated costs or part of the railroad costs that we talked about before. So there's about 600,000 of this goes into the railroad. Is that about 600,000 goes into the railroad? So when you talk about the Connie's Bridge and the Hill Street corridor, you're talking about bidding in together. We're looking at somewhere around a $4 million project, of which we have about $3 million of it left. And so we've supplemented with the CIP this year by putting another $1 million into the CIP to get this project off the ground. So, the Cottonwood Bridge, this is where we had some issues. Project was awarded in 2021. The design is 95% complete. The only thing is I think the forensic on the bridge, is that right, Rick?
They have to do the historical report, and then they have to finish up the final plan and get them sealed by the engineer.
Okay, so that's all that's left. But here's the problem. We went to put this out to bid just to see what it was, and in May of 2022, ADOT redid their calcs on it, and what we thought was a fairly conservative estimate of 1.5 million for design and everything, they said that we were $360,000 short, $380,000 short. And so before they would even advertise the project, they wanted us to send them a check for $860,000. That's before they would even advertise it. And so, and it says that in our IGA that we have to pay the money up front. We knew we were going to have that, and we had $480,000 laid back for that. but they wanted the entire amount without seeing if there was an overrun. Rick and I have been adamantly talking to them, and we don't understand their logic. They wanted us to cancel this project and then reapply for a different type of project which is another off-system bridge project that has a unlimited amount that you can apply for it within reason. I mean, as long as the funding is there. The problem is that we've been awarded this project. It's a competitive for the Cottonwood Bridge if we delete it and then come back and have to reapply. And both Rick and I in our ADOT careers have seen too many times where that didn't work out in the person's favor. So our suggestion is to try to find funding for this. So we do not think that we can do it with this year's CIP because we're using up almost all the excise tax and what's left over in the HERF. In fact, our asphalt program is going to be very short this year because we're trying to get these bridges out. So we're probably going to use everything on Connie's Bridge because it's the one that has been funded the longest. And we are working on ways to fund the other bridges. And we'll go over a few of those a little bit later. But here's what happens if you delete the bridge. So if you delete it and then you aren't awarded it, you're responsible for the $360,000 of design fees that already been paid. So you not only will not have the funding, but then you will have to come up with $360,000 to pay the design back. So we want to leave it the way it is. We'll find the money, and then yeah. So here's what they're saying, well, our match right now, our contribution right now is about 800,000. If we had an unlimited where there was a zero match or a zero contribution, that we would only have to pay the 360 up front. Okay, so they're saying you make out $500,000 there. Well, that's not guaranteed. We could end up with zero and then have to pay the 360 back. So, if council wanted to take that kind of a gamble, it's not my suggestion to do that. And I think you feel the same way. So we just felt like we were getting pushed a little too hard on this, but we have till June to make a decision. June of next year, they're saying that we have to decide either to delete it or to go forward with it because it's a project that's due at the end of fiscal year 23. So.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jerry, we have assigned IGA with a commitment to these initial funds, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So our IGA says that we will pay, we will come up with what we thought was going to be $480,000 before we went out to advertise. When they redid their estimate, that's when they come up with the additional 400,000 basically. And so we believe that there's other pots of money that we can get. We wanted to reapply for the OSB 24 money, and then if we got it, because we'll know in March. If we got it, then we canceled the other project. They wouldn't let us do that. And then we said, well, let's do the shortfall, the 800 and some thousand. And they said you can't use it for match. We made the argument it's not match. 5.7% of this is match. The rest of it's city contribution. Nobody has ever said, city, where did you get that money from? Does it have federal money in it? Nobody's ever asked that. So we were trying to get some clarification from them, and it didn't work out real well.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's a lot of moving pieces. ADOT's getting hit with a lot of funding coming in different areas, and they're trying to figure out what works together, what doesn't. They're encouraging us to, like say, to cancel this and go for a larger grant, but you can't guarantee that we would get that. I think staff's recommendation is we hang on to the money we have. There's still things that we don't even know about that have happened or that will be coming down the pike in the next year. And I think we stand a pretty good chance of getting between, the additional money that way. And that gives us the time. We also have, different people we can talk to about interpretations and options and things. So we're going to play the long game and try to round up the additional funds to bring this project home. And I will say that maybe, Jerry, I'm going to.
There you go. Go ahead.
So Steve Stratton is leaving the Transportation Board. There is a nominee out of Graham. His name is Drew John, and the nominee must come from Graham County. And we were going to invite him here on the 26th and maybe introduce him, talk to him. If council's willing, may do a letter of support to the governor. He has not been appointed yet. I don't know that it's the governor makes that assignment, and it would probably be good to us if we meet with him, kind of hear where he's at, and if council's pleased with what they hear, to support him in his attempt to be nominated by the governor. And so we're looking at that on the 26th. But Steve Stratton has been very helpful in getting us across the finish line on many things, and having a good relationship with our regional member of the State Board of Transportation is helpful so much with this. And so that'll be coming in the agenda in 2 weeks. Jerry, go ahead.
So this next slide is just a number slide. We were originally funded $1 million from the OSB. The city committed 500,000, of which 5.7% was a match. The rest was contribution. We've spent $376,548 on pre-design and pre-bid, of which we've already sent a check off for $21,000 for our 5.7%. And then our estimated costs have now gone up to 1.5 million for construction, where they were just over $1 million before, right, Rick? 1.1. And so anyway, the federal share, you can see that the city match would be 35,000, and therefore the city contribution would be 820 or 827. And the funds that they want us to send them up front is 863,000. And so the shortfall due to the escalation is 384,000. That's what we have to come up with additional.
Can I get a question? So when we design these, we have to design them for stormwater capacity, right?
We have to write.
Yeah,
correct.
so do
Yes.
they qualify for stormwater improvement?
So because of the transportation component, you have to be real careful on how because they're funded through the federal highway. And so you have to be careful on how you use them. But there are some grant opportunities that we're looking at that pertain to infrastructure, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. But we haven't given up on this by a long shot. Worst case scenario, if we do happen to cancel this, we have a shovel-ready project designed, even if we have to pay the $360,000, which I don't believe we will. But we'll find the funding for it. So, any questions on Cottonwood? Okay, this is you. This is you. Did we skip Hill Street?
Can you back it up, Danny?
No, I went through Hill Street.
Okay, we're good to go then.
Yeah.
Okay, our Tac Proposal. I think we talked about this before. This was an initiative that was put forth by RTAC, which is the Rural Transportation Advocacy Commission. It's hard to say that. We work with CAG. Thanks for coming tonight, Andrea. We appreciate your support and CAG's support on this. This was run through the legislature as an appropriations bill for using some of the excess state money for transportation. The bill went through the process. CAG was allocated $2,245,000 plus or minus for this fiscal year 2023 out of a $50 million package that was put forth by RTAC. As the bill went through the legislative process, evidently somebody in, I think it was the Finance Committee or the Appropriations Committee.
Chair of the Appropes.
Yeah, basically put the sledgehammer down on all the rural projects and said that they only wanted to do road projects. So the road projects that are on state highways were the ones that were funded through the RTAC, I believe, is what was done. So those projects, basically ADOT projects, but they're saying it was given to rural communities because it was given in quote rural areas, was all that was funded. So that money is gone, and there's another funding opportunity we'll talk about here later that came out of that. So we went through the TTAC committee and we proposed the sidewalk projects that Jerry talked about, the Jess Hayes Road. We proposed phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. The votes were very close on that, and I know the mayor's aware of this, but we came out, edged out ahead barely. We made a decision that we would just go for the first 2 phases, and we would share some of the funding with Hayden Winkleman for their project to get them off the ground. But those are gone now, so that's water under the bridge history. RTAC has now come back and with another series of proposals. We've been working with CAG and Travis Ashball. I was on the committee that looked at this because most of our projects are the ones that are involved. And like I say, this is just a pipe dream now. It's nothing that's for sure. It has to go through the legislative process. But they've asked for 3 different levels of potential funding that they would request for, which is a $100 million proposal, a $200 million proposal, and a $300 million proposal. So under the first one, we're talking with CAG. If that got approved, we would go forward with Jess Hayes sidewalk phases 1, 2, and 3, and do the Winkleman project. That was our recommendation. That has not been approved by regional council as of yet, but that was the TTAC recommendation. The $200 million one, if that goes through, then everything that was requested previously would be funded, all the projects. And if they go to the $300 million, there may be some additional funding available. We talked about some alternatives, and like I say, this is just pipe dream. We talked about an alternative to seeing can we maybe fund Cottonwood Bridge out of some of this excess money if it were to come forth. But again, that's way down the line. It's probably a long shot that this will get approved. I mean, if they didn't approve the $50 million, it's going to be questionable whether they approve the other, and it's a timing thing. So with that said, the funding options that we were looking at, as Jerry said, we're looking at federal transportation grants. We're working with Linda Neto and others to apply for those. We've applied for some of the congressional pork barrel funds, their projects that they have. I believe we were unsuccessful on those for transportation projects. We're still applying for funds to cover those costs. We're looking at private grants. We're looking at, like as I said, the congressional earmarks. We're looking at safety funds. We're looking at the CAG funds, if those would become available, as I mentioned earlier. We're looking at, as Jerry said, maybe the off-system bridge funds. There's a new in the bill that was passed. There's a what they call a state match advantage for rural transportation. That may be a funding possibility. That's so new that I think ADOT is still digesting that. So that may be a long shot, but like I say, we're trying to look at every possible way we can to get this done. CAG has been very helpful. We're trying to come up with solutions. If we want to deliver these projects, we know that the escalation of costs are what's caused the majority of the problems. And on those proposals, we up the estimates on all those costs to cover current and hopefully future cost escalations. So is there any questions on that?
So most of these projects, we're gonna have to, what I call, do a shotgun on it, just to see what sticks. And hopefully apply for 2 or 3 of these grants and get one of them that we can use. There's a couple possibilities here. I know that Travis and Rick have been working hard on this, but Linda and I have been talking about a couple of things that might work as well. So we're gonna apply for multiple ones and see what works out for us.
And-
Do the next one.
And
Yeah,
Mr.
then we'll
Mayor,
walk
members
on.
of council, just real quick, just pointing out that there will be the Rural Transportation Summit, September 14th, 15th at Auction Harris Casino. It's an annual event that CAG sponsors, and they'll have legislators there and efforts to try to hash out some of these funding sources and try to push forward to get these projects funded. So if anybody does want to attend, that's September 14th, 15th at Harris. And I think Jerry will be going.
We're not the only community.
Yeah.
That's affected by these escalating prices. So, it's tough for all of us. And saying that, even though you're real sympathetic with these other communities, you're also competing with them for this funding. So, hopefully we can get in and get these applications done. So go ahead with the next.
Yeah, what we're trying to do, working with CAG, is we're trying to get these current projects done and out and delivered before we start new projects. So that's part of our discussion with ADOT, is can we just get these current projects out the door and then worry about new projects. So that's our argument on that, is let's get what's in there, address the cost escalations, find the money and get them done, and then move on. Okay, the sidewalk downtown, we call this the downtown street sidewalk project, although Broad Street is the main one we're looking at. We're also looking at Hill Street and Pine Street there. What we're looking at is trying to clean that up. There's some areas where there's some concerns. There's some areas that's cracking. There's some areas where the curbs are higher and that sort of thing. So we're looking at that. What we've done is we've contracted with Rick Engineering out of Mesa, and they are going to do a preliminary report and show by block what deficiencies there are and what estimated cost estimates there are to bring those up to an acceptable level of service. We had a field review a couple of weeks ago with them, and we looked at these areas. So what we are planning to do is that when the report comes out, we will look at it with Jerry and staff. We will come up with what we think the priority is. Come to council and show that to you. I would assume if you agree with that, fine. If you want to make changes to that priority list, fine. We would address it at that point in time, but at least we'll have a game plan of what needs to be done in the downtown area. So that's the plan on that.
We're looking at approximate costs from a block to block thing, and hopefully we can not only use some of our CIP money, but use, if we're selected, part of the CDBG money for these projects as well. I know this is one of the projects we wanted to talk about later.
This one's up to you.
Okay, so possible funding. We're looking at a lot of different funding opportunities. I just wanted to go over them just briefly with you. We talked about the appropriations that we have already been awarded with the Hill Street and the Upper Pinnell Creek. The OSB, I think Rick did a pretty good job explaining that the 22 and the 24 and the different funding opportunities there. The RTAC for is out there. We would like to do the Jess Hayes sidewalks on it, depending on what level actually does get funded and we're approved for that. We rank very, very high in the review for CAG, so we we hope that we're in line for that. But we also want to look at maybe putting a project on the State Transportation Improvement Program, that through CAG, and then maybe use HERF exchange monies once that gets on there. We can use the Reconnect community grants that Linda's been talking about. There are quite a few categories in that those grants that are available to us that we could apply for. They're all competitive, so it depends on the roll of the dice at that one, because there's going to be a lot of communities applying for them. And also the SMART grant that Rick had talked about is a pot of funding that is a lot of it is for the reimbursable, the design and so forth. So there's each one of these has a different level, a different project that could apply to one or all of the projects that we have. The HERF exchange, basically, if we have a project on the STIP and we can't fund it any other way, we could exchange HERF money for it to do it that way. And is that pretty well right on that? And then also we have our half-cent excise and the HERF money that the state and the county awards us every year to do our CIP. And then, of course, we have the CDBG money that we're hoping to utilize on part of this. We've got a lot of balls in the air right now with this, but we need to focus on one at a time and knock these off as we go, rather than try to do them all. We'll apply for all the grants, but once we get the money, we need to get the construction done on these. And the other thing, just a comment on the sidewalks downtown. When you improve sidewalks, even with federal money, and it's not a full replacement, they do not have to go back completely ADA compliant. That was a question that one of the councilmen asked me. So they do not have to go back 100% ADA compliant. What you do is you make sure that they are ADA compliant as much as you possibly can get them. So in other words, if you have a telephone pole that sits too close to the sidewalk, we may not want to move that. And if you have a grade change off a building, we might want to think of a different way to make that ADA compliant, rather than try to bring in a 12-to-1 ramp into it, because you can't always do that. So that's why we hired Rick Engineering to take a look at some of these possibilities and give us the best options that we can get through a older community that has an established business area. So, and one more questions.
Questions or comments for Jerry or Rick?
Mr. Mayor, I'm very concerned that we have all this incentive money given to us, and now they're taking it away, and that's how I see it. The powers that be at ADOT, seems to me they're not taking into consideration the needs of the rural communities. So we need to use and leverage all of our associations to bring pressure to bear on the legislature, the League of Cities and Towns, and any other entities that we have available to us. These are important projects. We've stepped up and tried to put them out there, and now we're running into roadblocks. I'm not happy, I'll say it, I'm retired, not happy with this legislature taking money away in various forms. So we need to battle this. We have needs too, just like the other cities and towns. And it seems to me that the rural communities, once again, are taking it and not getting what we were promised. And that's a deficiency. Now, this is an election year. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Very, very frustrating, Councilman. Very frustrating. Anything else?
Jerry, you said, and you said it right, is a lot of cities are in the same predicament. We have a lot of projects that we're ready to start. And with all the funding coming through, you would think that the the powers that be would want to complete some of these projects and maybe have some of this funding piggyback onto the initial grants and get them moving. I mean, we're in a predicament, you're showing a lot of money that we're short on various projects here, and we're not the only ones. There's other cities. You would hope that they would see that also and help us, and you're right, help rural communities complete these projects, don't have the funding that the big cities do.
Well, Rick made a good point at the meeting that we had with ADOT, and he said that, why not take this extra money that we're getting from this off-system bridge that has unlimited and finish the damn projects that we already started? You know, that's, and then at that point, the guy says, well, you can't use that money for match. And we told him we don't want it for match. We want it as part of the city contribution. You know, we'll pay the 5.7% match. That's what the regulation says, that you can't use it for that match. And it was, Paul was on that meeting. It was kind of a different conversation, but I believe at the point we left at is Councilman, you're right, and Mayor, you're right. We need to go out and figure out who needs to have those type of meetings for us, and because to me it's senseless to take a bridge that's already been awarded and been deemed as being necessary and have it reapply. I mean, just fund it. It doesn't seem real complicated, and you know, I don't know, maybe Andrea knows, but I don't understand these off-system bridge funds that are federal, and when they told us they had to be, we had to do something by June of 23, I thought that the federal fiscal year ended in October. So I don't know, that's something else we're going to pursue. Because if we get Connie's Bridge done this year, we could possibly swing Cottonwood, even if we didn't get the funding through our CIP next year. But I don't want to do, I mean, we can actually, as a city, we could fund these, but then it would take away from every other project that we're doing. And these projects are very, very important, but they're not more important than some of these other projects that some of the other departments have as well. So we need to find alternate funding sources for them.
Yeah, just one more comment, Mr. Mayor. Our infrastructure is not young. We're not talking a 30 or 40-year-old bridge. We're talking 100 years in some of our infrastructure. Our fire station. We're hard pressed to keep people here because they're working in substandard conditions. I'm surprised our risk management company hasn't asked us to shut down various bridges across the city because of their age. They haven't pulled a study, but the day's coming. If we don't get these things going, we may have to see some closures here. So we've got to push the legislature and the state and ADOT to get on the stick. We have reasonable concerns, and that's why we're addressing this infrastructure across all of our subcommittee meetings that we have held. We have identified age in the infrastructure, and it's time to change that, and that's all we're trying to do. And to put up these kinds of walls, we don't have time for this. We've got to push them harder and push back across with our partners of the League of Cities and Towns to tell them these aren't 30 and 40-year-old bridges that we're changing just because of cosmetics. These are critical infrastructure, and the word critical is very important in the cities and towns. And I think there's many other cities and towns who the age of their infrastructure is the same boat as ours. We need to get this done, and we need to push back harder. And we have been told in previous meetings with the League of Cities and Towns that the legislature needs the cities and towns more than we need them. We need to push back very hard on this. This is not cosmetic infrastructure making it pretty. It is vital.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's opportunities out there that we can stitch together completion of these projects. The fact that there's so much going on and so much money flowing, and there's some people not quite sure how to handle that. That allows us the opportunity to help guide this and find solutions and piece together this. You know, Jerry and Rick are very good at that. And we as a team have had connections that we will go to and see if we can't, you know, search out some funds that'll help bring at least these two major projects home.
Fernando?
So I hate to rain on your parade because you have a plan, but I'm on the WIFA board, and the last meeting we just approved $2 billion in infrastructure funding, and there's more money coming, but it's coming for water security, water scarcity, especially because of the CO2. So I'm wondering how much of that money might become available to other parts of Arizona, because we have a board that I also sit on that we've been screaming like stuck pigs because they forget rural Arizona. So they usually carve out not a lot, but some to go to that group for us to then select projects to fund. We just selected a bunch of rural transportation projects that we just.
And maybe some of that can be used for storm.
Well, what I'm wondering is there anything that we need as far as water security that we might have in our back pocket that if something comes that we can apply for it?
We always have something in our back pocket. So you have not seen my tablet, have you? So ask Jessica what she's been doing. She's been putting projects on the boards on two big whiteboards for last 2 weeks now. So we have over 40 projects that we want to move forward. So we just keep Paul out of that office so he doesn't have a heart attack.
Yeah, when Mr. Mayor, Members of Council, when Jerry said we could fund this internally, I'm like, no, we can't. It's like, no,
So, but the point being that it isn't that we're broke. We couldn't come up with 300,000 if we needed. But some other part of the city would suffer for that, and that's not what we want. That kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, no, and there are opportunities out there. This is the beginning salvo as we go through and just work our connections and talk to as many people as we can and try to find somebody who can help guide us. We did it with Connie's Bridge initially, and I think we can do it again.
And I was real happy that when I started crying, I need money, Capstone didn't walk out.
They just
Just saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Rick. Good luck. Next, we have consent calendar, and matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be a routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public item for separate consideration. Members of the council and/or staff may also remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $448,154.66. Consideration of agreements and purchases less than $25,000. Consideration to appoint Elizabeth Montague to the Library Committee for a 4-year term. Consideration to approve the Historical Advisory Preservation Commission recommendation for approval for First Interstate Bank signage at 161 West Oak Street, formerly the Great Western Bank. Consideration to approve the Historical Advisory Preservation Commission recommendation for approval for Coppertown Treasure Depot signage at 127 North Broad Street, formerly Rainbow Flowers. Consideration to approve the Historical Advisory Preservation Commission recommendation for approval of the City of Globe logo at 780 North Broad Street, formerly Green Pole Construction. Consideration to approve a mural to the historical East Street staircase and mural to the historic High Street staircase donated to the City of Globe by the I Art of Globe organization. Council consideration and possible approval of fiscal year 21-22 third quarter distribution of bed tax funds in the amount of $10,000 $228.64 to the Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce to be paid from account number 10-51-51900, General Fund, Community Organizations, Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce. Consideration to approve fiscal year 2021-2022 first and second, third quarter distributions of bed tax in the amount of $33,601.10 to the Culver Valley Center for the Arts to be paid out of account number 10-51-51920, General Fund, Culver Valley Center for the Arts. In consideration to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 third quarter distribution of bed tax funds in the amount of $6,819.10 to the Gila County Historical Society from account 10-51-51925, General Fund, Community Organization, Historical, Gila County Historical Society bed tax. In consideration to approve the city manager's authorization on the Arizona Department of Corrections inmate work contract. Anybody from the public, the staff, or council want to remove any of these items for separate consideration?
Mr. Mayor, if there are no other comments or questions, I motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
Okay.
Motion is, and a second for approval of the consent agenda as read. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. We have no new business. Action items. Item A, discussion and consideration to approve contract CS-2022-0048 for the wastewater treatment plant clarifier rehab project with RAM Specialist LLC in the amount of $56,580, which includes a 15% contingency for a total amount of $63,960 to be budgeted from account number 51-80-52200 wastewater capital outlay construction. Jerry.
Yeah, most people just call me John Angu or Vince. But tonight is Jerry. So, this project actually went out to bid. We only had one bidder on it. It was bid as a complete project, where the contractor would, buy all the stuff, design it, that kind of stuff. And it went way over. I mean, 10 times as much as our estimate was. And so we went, back out and we took the material portion out of it and we purchased the material out of the CIP. Okay, then we went back out for a labor only, to install what we had purchased. And, RAM, came back, with one stipulation. They needed time to get it done and they wanted a year. So he said, I can probably do it within a few months, maybe even 6 months, but I can't be tied down. So we couldn't get anybody else to talk to us like that. Everybody was just too busy to do this type of work. So, and Matt's worked for us before, Matt Kindergarten's worked for us before. So, we presented that to Paul and then, we moved it on. And so, so this contract's before you tonight is for the labor only. It is in the amount of $56,580 with 15% contingency, which brings it up to $63,960, and better than $750,000 bid that we got.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're having to be flexible in how we manage these projects, to give a surety to the vendors. He will start when the materials are delivered and give him that flexibility. That's the only way they can make that commitment. And so we're finding that flexibility is paying off.
Yeah, and if you can't get the materials and there's a penalty clause in there, nobody wants to bid it. So therefore, if we are getting the materials for them and we have them on hand, that's why they don't mind doing it.
Fernando.
Is the contingency for the labor or is it
The
for the
contingency is
material?
for the project itself in case we have to have them weld something, fix something. When we start sandblasting this to get the paint job on it, we don't know what we'll end up with. So we want to make sure there's a little extra money so we don't have to run out and do something different. Because if you know Matt Kinnegar, you know he can make or come up with whatever he needs in there.
Yeah, you can.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, the 15% I think is traditional, even.
It's a little higher. We usually charge 10%. We usually charge off 10%, but this has a few more unknowns in it, and that's why we assign 15% on it.
Ready?
Thank you, Mayor. Jerry, because we're doing a joint venture, materials and they provide the labor, are there any warranty considerations?
Labor warranty only. Labor warranty only, and, well, he's gone, but Will.
Yeah.
So my inspector. So, we have warranties from the people that we bought the material from, if that's what you're asking. So, all the material that we bought is, guaranteed, and if we have any problem, we send it back. So, but Matt's contract is labor only.
Jerry, if Ram says they can do it for a year, we're okay to hold off on the rehab till then?
We have two clarifiers. We usually have one in operation at a time. It's part of our preventive maintenance to rehab these clarifiers. So if we had to wait a year, we could. We did while we were rehabbing the pool, the oxidation ditch. Drew a blank there for a minute. The oxidation ditch. We put it off for a while. We don't have a problem putting it off again. We rehabbed one of them by ourselves with Matt's help on the top end of it 3 years ago. So we're in pretty good shape. But I don't want to go another 2 years.
Any other questions or comments?
And Vince, and just another comment, that Vince has done a really good job in putting this together, so I'm real pleased with the effort that he's put on this.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. A motion to approve contract CS 2022-0048 for the WWTP Clarifier Rehab Project with RAM Specialist LLC in the amount of $56,580, which includes a 15% contingency for the total amount of $63,960 to be budgeted from account number 51-80-52200 wastewater capital outlay construction. Second.
Motion is second for approval of item 6A. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jerry. Move on to late agenda items. We do have a late agenda item. It is a public hearing regarding the use of the Community Development Block Grant. So at this time, I will open the public meeting and the project discussion and comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and so Andrea Robles is here from CAG and Ken on the Zoom somewhere to talk about this. We had previously done a public hearing and had a project named, but we got a little ahead of ourselves with the project, moving parallel, and so we're reassigning this money to a different project. Given the rules and the requirements, it's simpler just to go back to square one with the public hearing process and do it that way. And so here we are tonight to start with the first evaluation of possible projects that council would like to select. So,
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I think most of you know me. My name is Andrea Robles, and I am the Executive Director of Central Arizona Government. And as Paul mentioned, we have Ken on Zoom and Lorinda Eloita. She's been hired to help out in our CDBG department, so I'm sure you'll be seeing her around as we move forward with your project. I just have a few items to cover with you today. Today's public hearing is for input regarding projects for consideration by council for the 2021 CDBG grant cycle. The city is is expected to receive approximately $179,879 in fiscal year 2021. We've prepared a small list of topics that need to be covered as we go through this hearing. CDBG funds must benefit low to moderate income persons in the area, alleviate slum and blight in the community, and address an urgent need of the town. Examples of possible uses include public infrastructure, community facilities, housing, public services, or economic development. And I think as most of you recall, your most recent projects were street improvements and the purchase of the fire truck. Let me see, what else do I have here? And I just need to point out that anybody needing technical assistance regarding any of the projects or the city's grievance policy can contact Ken Hebert or Lorinda. And our office phone number is 480-474-9300. And just to mention that tonight, any of the projects identified will then move forward to the P4 public hearing, which is scheduled for August 9th. So tonight we need to make sure that we capture all of the projects to then move forward.
And so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so a list of some of the possible projects, public infrastructure, water, wastewater, streets, sidewalks, community facilities, like parks and recreational ideas, any type of housing that we can do, public services. At one point, we talked about Head Start. Before, we talked about our victims advocate. We talked about demolishing some of the buildings that we had in order to build public safety facilities, and then economic development. There's a ton of opportunities there. And so those are some examples, just a more complete list, and then I'll turn it back to Andrea. We're still looking for Ken.
And we're ready for any suggestions. Ken's ready to take notes.
Oh,
He's
okay.
here to answer questions if you guys have any questions.
And so, Mayor, Council, if you'd like to start with ideas that you have, we're in that 125,000 range.
179.
179, but there's a little bit of overhead.
What is the timeline for this?
Andrea, it's
We'd like to get moving on this. August 9th will be your P4 public hearing. That's where you will select a project, and once you guys select, work will begin.
and the one, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the one thing they like to have standalone projects. Adding this to the bridge project would be clumsy and probably not appropriate. I'd like to start to finish soup to nuts project, and that's why sidewalks are so good, because it's scalable.
When we had this meeting prior, we had all come up with lists of
Yes.
ideas.
Many of those are already funded. What-
We were gonna spend this somewhere else.
Wait, say
179,
correct,
and that's why it's being brought back to the late agenda item.
because
Starting over.
we're starting over. Yes.
But where was the list of where this funds were gonna go? Again,
From the prior.
we all sat here and we did this.
From the last process.
Oh, it was for the playground equipment out front.
Where was our alternative?
I think with the special, the advocacy, the type 3, demolition of the medical center was one of them. I think those, each department seemed to have one. Jerry, do you remember any that I missed? Yeah. We can, Jerry, come up so people can hear you, and we can Google that agenda real quick.
I think it would be nice to have the prior list of what we were working with, and I'd like to have a hard copy of, and I don't have one, of the different headings you just told us. As this kind of sprung us on us, and I'd like to have some time for some ideas. And I
So
know we're on a timeline.
we did look at the past lists, and most of those have been funded. The sidewalks have not been funded. The demo, we have an alternate funding source for that. The advocate is already been funded. The sidewalks have not been funded. Asphalt was done through the CIP last year because we had some extra money. So I think there's only really 2 projects out of that original list that have been funded, and that's a demo and the sidewalk. The problem with the demo is they're in 3 locations, and I'm not for sure our surveys cover all those locations. Where the sidewalks, they do. And that's why we were focused on the downtown area, and we had Rick Engineering come in and start that initial work.
Go ahead. Sue.
How much is that gonna cost that? Like,
That's-
how much sidewalk can you get for this 179?
That's why we're having Rick Engineering go block by block and say, you can do this for this. And we could do, for that 179, we could add money from the CIP that we already have in there and do as much as we possibly can of that downtown area. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's all covered by the survey that we've already done.
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
thank you. So the square that you showed us on the presentation, that's the sidewalks we're talking about,
Yep,
and that 179 could go
Yep.
towards that.
yep. And I don't know, you might even know of a sidewalk that is really bad.
All of them?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, just walk the sidewalks downtown, every single one of them. But,
Cost would be the final cost.
well, I mean, the Mesquite sidewalk we did, that was a little difficult one that we did, and that was, I can't remember, I think that was about 75,000, something like that. So, if that's a gauge, we probably can do a block area with this money. So, you know, and I think it's gonna be a good project, because then we'll have it blocked up to where as we get the money and grants, we can just move to the next area. And,
Yeah, Jesse first. Go ahead.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So if we do the sidewalk project, so instead of just resurfacing, could we design them out for pedestrian, like we did with the bump outs and stuff for the pedestrians, and just actually make an actual infrastructure improvement versus just putting in new concrete?
Yeah, the kind of the way we did with Mesquite, where we did the islands and so forth. And then we want to, like I said before, we want to make as many of them ADA compliant as we possibly can. You know, remember, this is federal money that we're talking about too, so.
And on your map, the other thing that is, there's, once you get down past, I don't know, like Lynn School of Dance, we need some kind of improvement between there and like the drift, because it just turns into no man's land. So I don't know if that's something that we could look at. And
Everything in the city is expandable. So, and you can see that with the asphalt. We started in one area and just kept turning it black. You know, every year we go a little bit further. And that's what we have to do with the sidewalk, because to be real honest with you, if you gave me $20 million, I would have trouble replacing all the sidewalks in town. You know, I seriously would. So we got to have a plan, and part of that plan is going to have to be some maintenance by our own forces, so.
Jerry, we had approved the, I guess in the last process, playground equipment. What part of the playground equipment did we approve? Was there more than there was just the erection of the things that were there now, because those were funded through another source?
No.
There wasn't sidewalks or things we were gonna add to the
So we
front?
were going to shift that funding over to the community center playground, because the community center wasn't covered under the survey. So that's why we shifted the funding up here. This was covered under the survey. And otherwise, we would have had to come back and done the complete salary survey of the city. Yeah. So, and I did that one year with Gary and I did it when we did the fire engine. So, but that's why, Mayor, we shifted it up here. The work that you see out here, was supposed to be paid for with that. Some snafus went and, we did not get it approved, so, we had, luckily Linda had some alternate funding, and we were allowed to use it, so, you know, sometimes, when you mess up, it's better than it was before. I think that's where we're at now.
Jerry, if I could, how much do we have inside of the sidewalk fund currently? You know that number off the top of your head?
I don't, do you, Paul, for the
mean-
CIP?
See if I can take a look here. Go ahead, Freddie.
So tonight, are we looking for alternatives, so that we can, make a final decision later, or are we looking for the project?
We're looking for a list tonight. We're looking for a list. If there's only one thing on the list, that's fine. If there's 3 or 4 things on the list, that's fine. You're gonna have to come back at another meeting and decide which one.
Okay.
But if you want it on the list, you're supposed to do it tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you want something considered, you need to just
Put it on.
suggest it tonight. That way it'll be an option for the next meeting.
When you said demo, it's covered already, so there's. like,
The demo for the one building is covered. For the other 2, we might have to go out and do a salary survey.
And when you say the building, which one are we talking about?
The Silver King building is covered, because it's in the downtown area. And then I do not know whether the Rogues building is covered or not, is it? Okay, but it's the other one, the medical, it's not.
The medical center's not?
So do you have a cost on that?
No.
No.
And,
Which,
and it has to be a single project, right? You can't divvy out the money to more than one project.
You can, link projects together like those 3 buildings demo, but you couldn't do the demo and the sidewalk.
Right.
So it has to be, as I understand it, it has to be light construction.
I'd like to make 2 recommendations.
Put them on the list.
When I'm asleep, Bob?
Sidewalks and demo.
I'm in favor of doing the sidewalk.
Jerry, do we have an update on the Silver King building if we tear it down? On the stabilization of that wall so we can, on that building, do we have an update on any of that?
So, the engineers are telling us that, that there would have to be some major shoring before we tear it down.
But we don't have a number though, or definite.
They didn't give us an estimate, all they gave us was what needed to be done. So, and then I've also had the environmental done on that building too. And, it is, lead and asbestos in it.
So if we tore down that building and went as far as we could with putting a parking lot or some kind of improvement there, that 177 wouldn't go very far, would it?
It would take care of most of it, yeah. It would take care of most of it. It, probably wouldn't asphalt it, but it would, probably take it down and level it out. I'm guessing probably, yeah.
and Mr. Mayor, members of council, just a quick update. We have 200,000 in the sidewalk repair program. In the CIP.
I think that there's, 20,000 that's rolled over too from this year.
What's that?
I think there's an additional 20,000 that's rolled in from this year.
Yeah.
So, 220 plus this 200 would give us $500,000. So remember, part of that was gonna have to be towards the design, so, we're probably looking at, 40,000 there. So, what a thing to have is a roadmap for how you're gonna redo the downtown area.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted. Anything else?
I like the idea of the sidewalks too, but I would like to see it be like a structural improvement, like Mesquite Street was, or the bulb out. Or, yeah, because it really makes the downtown look nice and it is an improvement.
So what they're doing right now, what Rick Engineering is doing right now, is he's doing, a project assessment along with the cost. And then when they go into design after that, all the designs will come to camp. So, we wouldn't, just like Mesquite, we brought that to council. And, that's when the mayor wanted the stop signs. So, it was a good idea. They look good. They look good.
And this is a public hearing, right? So we could actually get ideas from the public.
Yeah, if anybody online or anybody would have,
We did receive one email, but it was, and it had, from a Michael Nolan, have any plans for flood control in that whole area? This came in at 618, the Gulch area. Okay. 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 That wasn't related, no. So so we haven't had anything else. But,
Andrea, I want to add another one. I think that we need to, I like the sidewalk project too, but, I think we need to do something with North Broad and parking, and I think we should venture into seeing possibly utilizing that funding for expansion where the Silver King building is, whether it be just tearing that building down and getting it secured, or however far that money goes. And only that building, not the three included, just the Silver King, because of the parking.
I think too, if we did that, we should at least design in some infrastructure so you could have power there, lighting there, water there, whatever you need to do for the future.
We have committed funding for a park there already, small park, so that would be part of it too. So.
And that would really add something to that end of town, because that end of town it's lacking something. It needs something. Yeah.
We could light it up. Any other suggestions for?
I'm for the demo myself for that end, and sidewalk. Demo for.
And the final will be August 9th?
There's no brave souls that want to.
And we don't have to do another survey then. We're still good with our previous survey.
And Ken is on Zoom, so Ken?
No, I'm talking for our mild, low to moderate survey income. That survey we don't have to do again, do
It depends upon where the project is.
it? Oh, okay.
So
Geographic, yeah.
I will take this list back to Ken. We will communicate with Department of Housing, and if there should need a special income survey, we'll contact Paul and Jerry, send the information.
Okay.
Me, Carmen, and Thea did one. We had to get trained on a Saturday, and we ran around and did them.
I went through one thing twice.
We'll have that information for you prior to the next meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you, Andrea. So if there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
yes, Mayor.
The public hearing is closed, and we'll schedule that for August 9th for the follow-up. We have our second call to the public.
And the only other comment would have been the one about, have any plans for flood control in the whole area on the Gulch, Muscle Gulch, okay. Oh, that's in the title there, that's why. So, that is the.
Scheduling the
Campus bond,
meetings.
so.
Any meetings to be scheduled at this time?
No,
Future agenda items?
we do. We received a communication from Arizona Water, company about their naming of, Terry Sue Rosie. Is that, am I saying that right? Rossi as Vice President of Water Resources. There's a large focus of, interest on future water supply. And so Arizona Water has taken the step to elevate their water resource manager to vice president status. We wanted to distribute this to council, but I also believe that council may want to have a check-in with staff and possibly a future agenda item to talk about where we were at on our water supply. There's water supply issues going on to our neighbors and the company. So I think that would be a good issue to put on the future agenda list to let, bring an update, see what questions are out there, and give the confidence that, as to where we're at with our future water supply. So that would be my recommendation, if council's okay with that. And did the Arizona Water? Yeah, okay. Arizona Water. No, this would be, it brings up Arizona Water took this step that's an important step and wanting to reassure people. The governor has I think $1 billion in water resources. I think it's a good time to just locally to establish where we're at. And so no, it would be our staff doing this. We would be presenting on that. And now probably would be a budget, look at the timing and how much gets on with the adoption of the budget and the sales tax levy in 2 weeks. We might do 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. But if you look at this letter, it asks that question, well, where are we at? And that's what we'd like to do.
Work group report to council?
We had that one last work group that happened right before the agenda went on the 28th, and so it was related to the budget. And I don't know if anybody on council had any questions or. Go ahead, Kelly. Got a good direction, and we'll be
I think
going
a
back
lot was
on.
discussed in that process too, in that meeting on the tentative budget.
So I didn't know if anybody else had any questions about anything going on, at least on that. And no, it was good feedback, and then we'll be getting back onto our normal schedule here pretty quick. And the only other, the only other question we had is if we may be putting a review of all boards, committees, and commissions onto one of the subcommittees or the work groups to talk about our current process changes. We'll be seating the 2022-24 council will be seating pretty soon, and sometimes that's a good point to, if there's any changes to be made, do that. We were kind of curious though, the question Shelley and I had was what subcommittee or what work group would boards, committees, and commissions be? Would it be quality of life? Would it be infrastructure? Would it be, financial? And so I think we would look into council to see if we were going to talk about that, where would we talk about that?
Got to categorize the category?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it's not public safety. I think we ruled out public safety. So would it be? I'm thinking quality of life or infrastructure. What's that?
If you want to review them, just who's on there, what.
We just on the processes, the membership, some questions about council's interaction with them. I think we have many committees we have old committees that are still out there, like the tree committee, we have the arts committee, we have HPAC, we have library committee, and we just had if there's any desire to make any changes or adjustments, that would be the time to get ready to do that with the turnover. So.
I'm just curious, on future meetings, is there gonna be a quorum at the policy forum, the rural policy forum?
The, for the 14th, 15th of, or
Winslow, whatever that is?
yeah, I mean, we can, any number of council members can travel to any conference. We just have, the council members need to be careful that they're not talking about future agenda items during the conference. We post a notice of quorum, but there's no reason why all 7 council members can attend any conference.
Well, I just didn't, you said, I was wondering if we were posting that. I didn't know if we were getting a quorum or not.
Yeah, I think if we do find that 4 or more are going, we'll just automatically post a notice of quorum.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending. Thank you.